Hi, everybody. This is Dwight Cyphers at Cyphers Gunsmithing over here in Dana, Indiana. And today I want to talk to you about the Savage 10mm2 again. This time we're going to kind of do an overview on the gun. Uh, but before that, I want to make sure, so I don't forget, this is my contact information. 812-251-6465. We're over by Dana, Indiana. We're a gun shop. I'm a gunsmith, and I specialize in the 10mm2. I do a lot of other things too. So, anyways, I was jotting down earlier some of the differences of the different models of the Savage 10mm and 10mm2, just as they came to mind. And I got to thinking, my goodness, there have been a lot of subtle, minor differences in the gun while it was being produced. Altogether were over 50,000 guns made, but I thought, man, this is probably really confusing for people, especially now. It's a used market only. I mean, Savage hasn't made any of these in years, and it's hard to find one that is just like this gun. This gun is just in like new condition, but even this gun is not exactly as it left the factory. This recoil pad right here is not the factory recoil pad. This is a limb saver recoil pad. It's aftermarket, and matter of fact, it's a newer limb saver recoil pad because the first ones that they made for these actually had problems that limb saver made, and they had to replace a bunch of them. Okay, well, anyway, so let's get into what are the differences of the Savage 10mm2 that are out there. So forgive me if you see me looking over. I've got notes because there were so many. I just finally had to start jotting these things down. Okay, first of all, there were three different guns made. There was the 10mm, the 10mm2, and the 10mm2 black powder. The 10mm is a 44-73 arm. When Savage first made that gun, the ATF declared it a muzzleloader, but then they changed their mind later on and said, no, this is a firearm, because it had a ignition system that was much different than the 10mm2. It used these little modules that were basically like 45 ACP cases that fit in the gun and with the primer. And also the thread on the barrel were such that you could take it off and put a regular barrel or a centerfire barrel on the gun. And ATF basically said you can convert this gun to a firearm, so therefore we're going to classify it as a firearm. Typical ATF stuff, I guess. And so Savage was not able to continue making it and marketing it as a non-44-73 arm. So they went back to Henry Ball. Henry Ball was the gunsmith that came up with the smokeless muzzleloader. He took it to the invention, and it was all about the breech plug system and the ignition system. And he had tried to market to several different companies. Savage was the one that took him up on it. So they went back to him and they said, Henry, we need you to re-engineer this thing so that we can make it a non-44-73 firearm. And they did, so that's when they came out with the 10mm2. The 10mm2 uses a cup on the end of the bolt that holds the 209 primer, and then a separate breech plug. And they also changed the thread pitch on the barrels, and so then it became, and it still is considered, a non-firearm. Okay, so basically, then you also had a 10mm2 BP. Now I'm a little unclear on that one, because as far as I know, that was just a 10mm2 that they marketed BP, and it was sold to like Bass Pros, Cabela's, and it was just something that they wanted. I do not know. I cannot say that it's safe to fire that with smokeless powder. I won't say that, simply because Savage is the company that made it, and they designated it as black powder. But I do not know if there were any changes to that gun other than marking it black powder that was requested by the buyers at Bass Pro, whoever it was that carried that gun. not a lot of those around. Most of the guns that you're going to run into is either the 10 ml or the 10 ml2, and I think there are only about 5,000 or 6,000 the 10 mls made, and I try to stay away from those, and I think most people do, because they're just a whole different animal than the 10 ml2. If you find one in nice shape and you get the good modules and the good breech plug, well, God bless you, go ahead. But pretty much today what people are interested in is the 10 ml2. So then there was so we have the 10 ml, 10 ml2, 10 ml2 BP, and then there was a Henry Ball Special Edition that this was a joint effort, I think, between Randy Wakeman, who was the primary gun writer who educated the public on the Savage 10 ml2. Good friend of mine. He educated me, helped me a great deal, and I'm very indebted to him for him teaching me about this gun. And anyways, the Henry Ball Special Edition was sent back to Henry, and he glass bedded, free floated them, and did some other accurizing work on the gun. I'm not sure all what it was. I've only had a couple through the shop, and I will say that the glass bedding that Henry did on those rifles was just par excellence. He was just a tremendous gunsmith. So then we had some changes come on through the years. So there are what you call round rear receivers, which this gun is, and then you had some the earlier ones that had a flat receiver. Also, there was a difference in the length of the actions. Savage made some, and when we talk about the action screws, it's these two right here. And this is a big deal if you're going to order a new stock and change it out, put a Boyd's hardwood. And according to Boyd's website, the measurement is there's the short, which are 4.27, versus the standard, which is 4.415 center to center of these two screws. Pardon me, I've got a frog in my throat this morning. Excuse me. So that's a difference in some of these guns. Also, some of the early guns were made, 10ml2s we're talking about, were made without AccuTriggers, and then later on they added the AccuTrigger. As far as I know, none of the 10mls had AccuTriggers. Okay, then there was a change to the breech plug, which sits up here. There was the older style, which had a slotted head, and they sent a tool about that long, made out of solid steel, and it had, this is basically just a big spanner wrench. We called it the fish whacker back in the day, and you took the bolt out, stuck it up through here, and you turned it. A real pain in the butt. And then they came up with the newer breech plug style, which uses a 3/8 inch socket head. You can get replacement breech plugs from Luke Horak at Arrowhead Rifle, and he makes a aftermarket breech plug, which is just excellent. And he also makes some really good vent lighters, which are excellent. When you go to look to buy one of these guns, the things you want to look for is the breech plug stuck or not. Will it come out? Is the vent liner stuck in the breech plug, and will it come out? Because it's not such a big deal if it's got a stuck vent liner. Just throw that breech plug away if you can't get it out and buy a new one. But if the breech plug's stuck, you've got your hands full getting it out. And I've been able to get out every single stuck one that's ever come to me, but it can be quite the process. And it's also indicative that whoever had the gun either didn't know what they were doing, they didn't use any never sees on it, but more than likely they used a black powder substitute that was corrosive, and that can be a problem. The other issue is the barrel condition. Has the gun been shot with black powder? Was it taken care of? Or when I say black powder, I mean one of the substitutes, like Pyrex being the worst probably. So do you have corrosion in the barrel? And then the other thing is the barrel bulged? That can happen from a bore obstruction. And that bore obstruction can not just be like leaving the ramrod in, but it can also be by the bullet not being fully seated. So then you've got an air gap and it acts like a water hammer, as you might experience in a heavy industrial situation. But now that bulge can be uh, very hard to detect, and if you are not sure if that barrel of yours has a bulge or not, that's when you want to send it to a competent gunsmith and have that barrel checked. Because once the barrel's bulged, that's a deal breaker. That gun's no longer safe. The fire has already been compromised too far. Anyways, so then there were differences in vent liners. Believe it or not, for a while, Savage, the original vent liners for the 10mm2 had one hole in the center, and all it is it's a cap screw. It's a little bitty screw with a hole in it that goes in the end of the breech plug. It's consumable. It's made to last about 100 shots, and they made some with 3 holes in them. Well, they didn't work out very good because they would tend to, the center between the 3 holes would tend to blow out. So Savage quit making those. So, but there were some 3-hole vent liners versus the 1 hole, and everybody uses 1-hole vent liners now. And if you need some new vent liners, again, Arrowhead Rifle, Lou Korak is your guy. There were blue steel models like this gun. There were also some stainless steel models. Then you had 4 different stocks that I'm aware of. You had black synthetic. You had camo synthetic. You also had brown thumb hole laminate, and then you also had non-thumb hole brown laminate that Savage made. Now, those are the only 4 that I'm aware of offhand. And hey, I've been doing this a long time, been following this gun a long time, and I'm getting old. So if I forget one of the options over the years, forgive me. I think I've got them all. Believe it or not, there were some rifles that were actually sold without sights. And they were not drilled and tapped for sights, and there were no sights on them. I've only had one of those. Let's see, what else? Ramrod. Oh, yeah, this one is an original ramrod. We call this one the noodle. It's you can see why. I mean, it's pretty flimsy. Most people changed those out pretty quick, and then later on, Savage made a better one that was a little bit stiffer. It's no big deal. So, anyways, 10mm, 10mm2, 10mm2 BP, 4473 firearm, whereas the 10mm, 10mm2 is a non-4473, differences in ignition and threads on the barrel. Then you had the Henry Ball Special Edition, which was a 10mm2, stainless steel with a laminate stock. Then you had flat rear versus round rear receivers, short actions at 4.27 versus long at 4.415. AccuTrigger, non-AccuTrigger. Old style breech plugs, new style breech plugs. Vent liners, 3-hole versus 1-hole. If you got any 3-hole vent liners, just throw them away. They're horrible. Blue steel, stainless steel. By the way, I've never seen a bulge barrel on a blue gun. And I don't know why that is, and I'm sure that there have been some. I just personally have never run into it. It's always been stainless, and I don't know the answer to that. The other thing is, I don't know if Savage ever made this gun in a left-hand action. I have a call into Randy Wakeman. I was going to ask him, but I'd never seen a left-handed 10mm2. Did they make one? Probably, but I've never seen one. Let's see. 4 different stocks: black synthetic, camo synthetic, brown laminate thumb hole, and brown laminate non-thumb hole. And I'm pretty sure that those stocks were all made by Boyd's Hardwood for Savage. And you can still get, you can choose from like 15, 20 different stocks from Boyd's Hardwood if you want those. I'm a Boyd's dealer. I put them on for people, glass bend them in, do that all the time. There was a difference in ramrod styles, the noodle, and then the stiffer. Some guns were made without sights, too. I think that about covers all the different variations that came down through the years with the Savage 10mm2. And then also, if you want to learn more about this gun, you can look at YouTube. But Randy Wakeman has a site called Randy Wakeman Outdoors. He's got article after article after article. I'd encourage you to look at those. Another shout out to Bob Parker of Parker Productions. Bob is a great guy. He helped me on a recent project. I was trying to help out a young guy who bought one of these guns. He bought one on Gunbroker. It had a stainless barrel with a blued receiver. That should have told you something right off the bat. As far as I know, whenever Savage replaced barrels, they never did that. And it turned out that someone had ruined that barrel. That stainless barrel was put on that gun, and they took that kid for a ride. That young man, and because they had lapped it by hand, and it wasn't even, and it was made the bore oversized. Anyways, that happens. If you buy one of these shoes, you want to buy one from a reputable dealer, somebody that knows the gun, or be able to inspect it yourself. But anyways, Bob Parker makes some of the best bullets in the business for muzzleloaders. And then Connie at MMP Sabot, Dale and Connie Ramsey. Dale's passed on now. Most of the lows that we shoot in this gun really love the MMP Sabots, and you mash them up with some of the Parker production bullets, and you'll have a great gun. And then also, for another source of information, go to Doug's Muzzleloader message board, where a lot of us got our start on this gun. So anyways, I hope that's helpful to you. Just talking a little bit about the differences in the Savage 10mm2. And if I can be a help to you, and then get a hold of me here at Cypher's Gunsmithing. All right. God bless you. Have a good day.